Boys, thanks for coming in.
Hey, man. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
In thinking about this interview, there's so much to talk about. There's so much to think about in terms of what you've done. And we got together for a while, and we tried to figure out what we were going to try and talk to you about, because you've sold over 50 million records. You've sold out arenas all over the word. One of the songs you played earlier is like, it had one of those kind of visceral, emotional reactions that I think people get when they hear like Heartbreak Hotel, you know? And I'm thinking about it, and I think what's often ignored with you guys is that what it all comes back to is the song. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey as songwriters together and the songs that got you here. Is that cool with you guys?
Absolutely.
So let's start with a song. Let's go new. This is from the new record, Feed the Machine. This is one that you just played up in our Q studio. This is Song on Fire, which in many ways is a song about writing a song. And light this old guitar on fire, I still hear the notes. Drown the melody in water, I still hear its ghost. Sing it with somebody else, but we'd be out of tune. Play it for the world, but it won't mean much. Like, I understand, Chad, that there's a love song in there, but it also sounds like you're talking about writing music.
That's exactly, yeah. It's a song about composing a song, and knowing immediately who the subject matter is. And also understanding that if you don't get to play the song for the person or show it to them in some way, shape, or form, that you might as well just, set the thing on fire, because it just doesn't quite have the potency. It won't be as special to you, the writer, if the person that you're writing it about doesn't get to hear it.
Is the process of, like, we're about to listen to some really old stuff, but Ryan, is the process of writing a Nickelback song similar now to what it was when you weren't selling out arenas, to when you weren't selling millions of records?
For me personally, I mean, I think it's Chad's
No. He started the sentence with Ryan.
For me,
He tried, though. He tried to get out.
Yeah, right. No, I was gonna say he's the prolific songwriter. He's the one that that's part of his DNA, just to come up with things and champion ideas, and that's how you get things done, and it's how you get things out there and work them out.
Mm-hmm.
I was never really super strong at that from the beginning. I felt that I found my place where he would bring ideas and I could chime in here and there and arranging and I was weird. I always felt like I was okay with bridges. I could come in with a key change. I got this key change here
like
for
Jeff
you.
and Bo?
Yeah, exactly. The bridges, Jeff and Bo. Let me tell you,
You were always good
I
at
can never pick a favorite.
You were always good at spending time with the bridges.
The bridges, they'll deny it to this day. But,
but Chad, how about you? Like, when you were in Hannah writing songs, how similar is your songwriting process now to when you first started?
It's significantly different. When you first start writing songs, I think you're really afraid that anyone's gonna absolutely understand what it is you're singing about, and you never want to put yourself that far out there, and so you shroud a lot of things in metaphors.
Right.
And
do you remember one of the first ones?
I remember the first song that I ever wrote.
Can you give me a
that
little
one
bit?
is not that one's not shrouded in metaphors. That the very first song I ever wrote, I was 16, and it's called Guardian Angel, and that is still a good song.
It's a decent song.
Come on, can you sing a little bit?
Yeah, have you got
we got a guitar.
You got an acoustic around?
Oh, Q exclusive here.
Jeez, how did that go? There's a man. I gotta remember how this goes. There's a man on the street who's got nothing to eat, and he asks you for a hand, but you pass him aside like he's on a free ride and he's a con man. But if the role was reversed and you'd been born cursed, I think you see it differently. Take a walk in his shoes and then you might lose that tight grip on generosity.
It's a good song. That's a good song for it. That's crazy.
Oh, I wasn't born a guardian angel. I'm just an average Joe who's trying to know a little bit about what's going on. No, I wasn't born a guardian angel. Side by side, we can do it together. We'll pull through it and we'll make our problems history. Won't you please be my guardian angel? Something like that. I mean, I'm really trying to. I'm searching for how.
For a
that's
16-year-old.
pretty close.
That's a solid song, though.
Yeah, it was like there's lots of really good ideas. I mean, there's the second verse gets
I think he
really
might be
good.
successful in this. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
It's
you know
one
what,
day.
Chad. I think about starting a career in it.
Yeah?
You know, starting to make a good. So we asked our production team here at CBC at Q to try and find the earliest possible moments of Nickelback that we could, and there is probably earlier footage out there somewhere. Can you pop your headphones on there?
Take a listen.
This is a clip from 1997. This is at the legendary Abbotsford Entertainment and Sports Center.
Oh boy.
Take a listen.
Our drummer just phoned and has pneumonia, and we didn't even know it. So
I think I start playing the drums.
There's some good news. Actually, there's a guy that works here at A&B who just went home to get his drumsticks, and he's gonna play. So we're Nickelback.
So we'll try anyway.
3/4 out. We're gonna start off with a new song that none of you guys have heard, and it's gonna be on the new album. And it's called.
Is there a tape in here?
You guys can think of the title forward because I don't have one yet.
It's recording down there as well.
Yeah, that sounds like us. Oh jeez. That's a rough song.
Leader, man.
Roll record. Nothing recording.
That's pretty cool. That's a very young Nickelback back in 1997 in Abbotsford with no drummer playing one of their first singles, Leader of Men, before it had a name. Chad, what do you think when you hear that?
I thought my key was pretty good. Yeah, I told you I could sing.
Oh, those days. Oh, the days.
No, that's fine. Like I remember, I think at one point in time we didn't really know what to do. I think that was an in-store.
That's right.
It was at A&B Sound, and it was a record store.
That's right.
And Mitch, our drummer at the time, he was really like just deathly ill and could not make it over from the island. And at one point, I just took the microphone and I brought it over and I started playing the drums. And then we just kind of all started switching and taking turns with whatever we could get through because there was a lot of people there and we had to.
Panic is very motivating.
Yeah, fear.
Fear's
a wonderful motivator.
But I think that what I'm hearing when I hear that is that, like, I only knew you guys famous. Like, I only knew you guys, in Newfoundland especially, I only knew you guys when you got super famous. Like, Ryan, when you hear that, what do you hear of yourselves?
It was pretty innocent back then. Even the ambition.
Now it's sinister.
Oh, it's just horribly sinister now. It's like we're like the big evil corporation now, apparently.
But it was innocent.
No, honestly, that's what I think because I remember that vividly, and I like the perspective of remembering those shows well. I vividly remember that show because it was stressful when drummer's not going to show up. You're like, what are we going to do? And the momentum was always moving forward back then. That was a good thing because there was always something else a little bit better going along, and it was never these. For me, it wasn't these big dreams of being where we're at now and seeing being fortunate to have the international success as well. There, it was just like, wow, A&B wants to hear us play. This is fantastic. Maybe they'll let us in. Maybe they'll let us in a nice venue in town, and then the next, but I hear a bit of innocence, I guess.
But I think that's what people miss, and I want to talk a little bit more about this later. But I think that's what people miss when they talk about your band is that you guys really slugged it out. You guys played some. I'm sure you played some bad venues. I'm sure you played some rib fests, and you played some backyards, and you played some.
Oh, all of those. Yeah. Oh my God. I think it was people perceive it sometimes as as an overnight success at some point with How You Remind Me internationally, and for us it was like. I don't know how that was like 4 albums in. So every band slugs it out to a degree, but we definitely paid our dues of playing Chinese food restaurants with nobody showing up, and playing pubs where no one's showing up, and playing other places. And
what kept you going?
We didn't want to do anything else. It was like there was just always another gig. There was always another show. There was always something that was coming up that we had to practice for, and it I think that just kept us going. It really did. It was always, well, we got that show on the 14th.
Yeah. So you
And
can't
then we
stop.
got that other thing, you know, we got that one thing coming up on the, you know, it was always, it was like 3-4 times a month we'd be doing stuff. We would rehearse 3 times a week.
Yeah.
We were really good back then.
I think though too, if I really kind of analyze it back then, I think when we did a show, we would get a reaction from the crowd, a certain reaction that it's hard to put your finger on what it was, but it's working. This is working.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting good feedback. I think if we had done shows and we were just like, people were flippant about it or wandering away, I think it would have been a pretty telltale sign. This chemistry is not working.
Yeah.
It just felt like something was always
You
working.
guys should work on painting or
Yeah, because I don't think we're like personally me. I mean, I don't think I'm any kind of a extraordinary or I think I'm an adequate artist in that sense, and I like playing music. I think that's what I like to bring to the table. But I have a firm belief in chemistry. Certain kinds of chemistry. It's like, you know, 2 things that aren't very good by themselves, or 4 things that aren't very good by themselves, but put them together and it's something different. And I don't know what that is. I don't think it's necessarily, I wouldn't say it's like extraordinary, other than just unique, maybe?
Yeah,
I don't know.
And I think that there was a change. I think around 1997, you guys started to become really well known. And for 4 years there, you toured endlessly. Like you say, you played bars and clubs and small. But I want to go back to something Chad said, where you said that your early songwriting was kind of couched in metaphor. And when you write songs early, you're kind of afraid to let people know what you mean.
Absolutely.
You have this huge record. You have Silver Side Up, which is this just massive success. And as Ryan said, it's the hallmark of your international success as well. And you said around then that it was time to take the gloves off. No more hidden messages, no more metaphor. That's around when the record came out.
That's right.
Why was it important for you at times to get to the point?
I just got tired of people asking me what our songs were about. You know, and so I wrote one about domestic violence. That song was called Never Again. I wrote a song about growing up in a single parent family, and that was called Too Bad.
Too bad, yeah.
Got in a fight with my girlfriend, and it was really cynical, because living with me must have damn near killed you. And this is how you remind me of what I really am. You know, and I'm sitting here singing these lines into a PA. It was very liberating. You know, I was like, I'm not afraid anymore. But you open yourself up to, you know, everybody getting to chime in and tell you what they really think of all of your inner emotions.
Well, it's vulnerable. I mean, but it's useful, and it means something, and you realize that your audience, and what musicians, no matter, like music audiences, no matter who they are, they value honesty.
Sure. Absolutely.
That's what they want.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
When did you know? I mean, How You Remind Me was, I remember Leader of Man, like my cousin Danny telling me about Leader of Man on
Thank you, Danny.
on ICQ, but then like How You
ICQ.
on ICQ, Danny told me about Leader of Man. Hey, have you heard the new Nickelback single? And I was a kid, and I said, but it was How You Remind Me that made me beg my dad to buy me a PRS, Paul Reed Smith guitar,
Wow.
and he didn't do it. But anyway, whatever, you know, like
They're pricey little numbers.
they certainly are. This was the guitar that they played in the video for How You Remind Me. Nielsen SoundScan, we looked this up, said it was the most played song in American radio in the first decade of the 21st century. Just a gigantic smash hit. Ryan,
Yes.
Ryan, what was the moment that you knew everything changed in your life?
Oh, that old double-edged sword. That it changed.
When did you know that things were different now?
I'm just trying to think of it. I remember.
Pubic hair? Is that when you knew?
Is that what we're talking about?
Is that when you knew is that when you knew manhood had arrived?
When are you supposed to get it?
It'll come. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm not sure if I can exactly pinpoint a time, because being in the situation that we were in with the previous album, before that one, we were really slugging it out on the road. We got signed to Roadrunner. We were out traveling a lot, and you really kind of just live in the eye of a hurricane. And even when How You Remind Me went pop and went everywhere, we were still just going out and just trying to make sure everybody had a chance to hear it. And I think for sure that somewhere in that point of How You Remind Me taking off, that absolutely changed everything. it changed the way we did things in a lot of ways, where we got opened up to so many other countries, so many other regions where we would never play before. Our shows, we could do what we want. We could try to present ourselves as we want, and we always wanted to go back and make a big show for the people, and just, if we made money here, we'd jam it back in the show and let's create a great experience for people. And we really worked towards that. I think that was, I guess if you could use the phrase, the tipping point for us, where that really changed a lot of different dynamics about the band.
I think that one of the great questions that people like me ask that is kind of dumb is the questions.
Don't ask it then.
The questions that make
Just
you
don't do it.
The questions that make you. The questions that make you. I'm not. Are the questions that make you like reflect on what do you think your music means, or why do you? But like I know, Chad, what's interesting about you is that I know you took some time and looked back on How You Remind Me, and you tried to figure out why that song.
Well, I don't
hit.
think I took that much time, but I sat there and listened to it.
That's
But
rare.
I thought about it. It was kind of like, why was this so wildly popular?
And
Like, why did And there's some things that definitely stuck out. And it was like, well, it's a universal topic. You're talking about love, being in it or falling out of it, either one. I mean, those things you'd be hard pressed to find somebody on the planet that couldn't relate to that.
Yeah.
In some capacity. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the style of music that we play. It could be way heavier. It could be much more melodic. But once again, you would be hard pressed to find someone who couldn't identify with one of those two things. And then the other thing I thought was I started to realize was there's some really catchy parts to it that wind up getting stuck in your head, like multiple parts of the song that really. And then not only that, there's this line that's just like it's really kind of. It's a way to put this, almost self-deprecating and like sort of, rip your chest open and just be very honest, which was, and this is how you remind me of what I really am.
What I really am. You hear the introspection and you hear the hurt, and
Yeah.
you hear, and because we all have moments,
Sure.
where we like, look at our core beliefs. We can think we're great sometimes, and then there's also a part of us that doesn't think we're great, and we can think that that's the right part.
Yeah, so looking at the song, I started realizing, there were a lot of different things about it that were really special, and it definitely, there was just more and more light bulbs that kept coming on in terms of like other songs, and they didn't have to be songs that sounded like How You Remind Me, but there were just things that I started realizing, like the more just. You just spit out the craziest thing or the most honest thing, and people will latch onto that. There's other things too, like if today was your last day, and going through this list of things of what you would do and how you would live the last moments of your life if you knew the end was coming. And so it's all those types of things, and it's the storytelling and pulling the listener in and trying to paint a picture for them.
What's your relationship with that big song now, with How You Remind Me? Do you still like playing it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Doesn't feel like an obligation?
No, not at all. No, it's, I mean, if for 1 second I looked down at the set list and saw that it was next, and I thought, oh, God, not this again, not this one. The second you play that first chord and say, never made it as a wise man, and the crowd all freaks out and starts screaming, right away you're like, this is good. This is good. All those people are they're feeling something, they're taking a trip down memory lane, and that song means something, it means something to me, and it also means something completely different to them. And I'm just glad that it means something to anyone other than me.
These songs have setting meaning too. Like they mean something in the setting that you hear them in. And I read an article today that talked about how there's nothing better than being in a bar in Aylmer, Alberta, and hearing a song by Nickelback come over the radio, and you hear it's like being in Newfoundland and hearing a Great Big Sea song come out over the radio. You're gonna feel something.
I can only imagine.
These songs are played at weddings, and these songs are amping up Hockey Night in Canada, and these songs demonstrate what we were talking about earlier, telling honest, direct stories. And this has brought you millions of fans and a fair share of criticism as well that you've been really candid in talking about in the past. But I wanted to ask this question in a different way. What do your fans get that critics miss?
I honestly, I even think the critics like Nickelback. I do.
I heard you say that before. Yeah.
I honestly do. I think that it's just music, and how can you really? I mean, and it's not like it's bad music.
Yeah.
It's just music. Even though stylistically, I mean, we're that guilty pleasure. And I was in New York this one time, and this guy came up to me in this club. And he said, "Hey, aren't you Chad from Nickelback?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he said, "Hey, I did an interview with you years and years and years and years ago, and it was for Rolling Stone magazine. And I brought in, the article, and the editor said I had to change it. And he said, no, this is too favorable. You literally have to change this article and make it negative." And he didn't understand that. And he was like, I don't get it. Why do I have to do this? And it was, I mean, it was so, the agenda was there. And I said, "So what do you do now?" He's like, "Oh, I sell cars." He's like, I didn't really like that job. I mean, it didn't pay.
Yeah. But it's the I don't get it that I'm interested in. Like, what do fans love that these you've spent enough time in your life talking about negative people. Like, what do your fans love that these people are missing?
I think you might have to ask some fans.
You think so? You haven't spent any time thinking about that?
You know what? That's a good question. I could always, guess to what it is, and what it is about other music that I like, and that's, why am I drawn to that? Like some of it's kind of, the honesty of some of the songs, what it connects with people. Some
we're
people
not the cool indie band. We're not like Arcade Fire, or we're not like, I don't know, name some cool indie bands. We're not that. And those bands are like critics' darlings. And I mean every critic, I think they know that they're just simply supposed to like those bands because they're hip and they're indie and they're cool, and you're just supposed to like them as a critic. I don't think you're supposed to like us. Mm-hmm. We're that kind of a little bit of a blue collar band.
I feel like that tide is turning though. But Ryan, what you were saying?
Well, then peel the onion on that one. It's like, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff from those bands you were talking about as well that you either connect with it or you don't. I think a lot of it. Because, I mean, I guess you could call us essentially a grassroots band. We were an indie band at one point, and
exactly
we started that way. We made connections live with people.
Yeah.
That is where everything started for us. Yeah, we got some radio play, but when we went out and actually went, yeah, here's what it is. You know this song, but here it is live. And it always seemed that way, where people would say, "I like your album, but you guys live sound really good. There's something different. There's something else to you guys when you play live," and that's where it started to snowball, and people would come back when we would go play, and word of mouth, I think, is always the best way to hear about anything, because it's an actual validation from a human being that connects with something. And I think it started at that point, and when people actually come and see the show and see us live and feel that whatever that is, I mean, you might like it, you might not like it, but in general, you kind of, people seem to have connected with it, and they get that it's for fun. We love sing-alongs. We love getting everybody else to sing along. That's the moment. And when I'm watching the crowd sing songs or sing the words to the song, that's cool. When I watch the crowd sing songs to each other and not at the band, they're like high-fiving and having a great time. And
two strangers.
Having that moment.
That's a good one.
Like where they're enjoying the music. It's not about the pomp and circumstance. It's about the moment. That's I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
But I think that it's a generational thing as well. Like, I think as people get older, as younger people start listening to music, the exact opposite of what I said, actually. I mean, I grew up when I was like a kid. I was able to download music pretty easily, much to your chagrin. Sorry, but like I was able to download music. So therefore, it wasn't as important for me to go into a record store and like I wouldn't latch my identity onto a genre of music. I wasn't of this because I could get whatever I wanted. I liked bluegrass and I liked punk rock and I liked soul and I liked R&B and I liked hip hop. And it feels like it's starting to turn around right now. I don't know if there was an article today in Maclean's that, from a critical perspective, that was like, it's like, stop it. Like, Nickelback are great. Like,
Someone said that in Maclean's.
There was an Maclean's article today that was called "In Defense of Nickelback."
Wow.
And it was about how, and there was a similar Celine Dion article from a few days ago. Not that you're Celine Dion, but that the tides are turning and younger generations care less about what's cool and they care more about music that's meaningful.
Well, we saw this in Europe.
Interesting.
And we actually talked about this. Like we the last 2 tours, we're just seeing all these like 13-year-olds, 14-year-old, 15-year-old kids in the front row, and I start, we're trying to dissect this. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I don't get this. And we came to the realization that their parents were playing a lot of Nickelback, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever it might be. And then they grew up enjoying it. And now they're coming now their parents are coming. They're like, well, we want to go too. We like that music. So thank you for the indoctrination, European parents.
But it is interesting because to what you said exactly, I mean, younger listeners are digesting music in a different way than I did. I don't think I can expect them to, cover to cover an album. I don't think that anybody's going to do that. It's not going to be the way kids digest music. I've got 2 kids. I know how they do it. I asked another guy I know, he's 19, and I'm just like, what radio stations do your friends listen to? Well, none.
Yeah.
Never have. And that being said as well, a lot of the opinions and preconceptions of artists and bands that have been, I don't think they are completely paying attention to it, the younger generation. They're doing, like I said, they're taking it their own way. They're getting broad swaths of music that they're listening to and kind of doing their own thing. And maybe it is. If you don't have all these preconceptions about what people tell you they think about something, it's like you just make your own opinion. Sometimes it comes out interesting.
You said you guys were slugging it out for so long on the road, and there were other bands slugging along with you, especially that great West Coast rock thing that happened around the time you guys came up. But it seems like you guys are the only guys left that are still playing arenas of that group, are still playing at your level. What do you attribute Nickelback's longevity to?
Geez, I don't know.
We're like hardy cockroaches.
Yeah,
You can't get rid of
you. You can step on us really, really aggressively, and we still scurry away. I don't know. I think it's probably a combination of a lot of things. I hope it's a combination of a lot of things. I hope it's a combination of still putting effort into the music that we make, and still putting effort into the shows that we perform, and actually caring that people leave our shows smiling and saying, you know what, the next time they come to town, I will come back and see them again.
And you guys are road warriors. You're on the road all the time. I spent some time talking to your crew there, and talking about the huge team you have out there. I have to bring this up. We were reminded in the music world of the impact of touring, of mental illness on when we found out that Chris Cornell had died, And what I found really striking about that was that Chris Cornell died in his hotel room. And I think that the hotel room after the big adrenaline-laden show can be one of the most lonely places in the entire world. I wanted to know, as people who have been on the road as long as you have, how did you react when you heard that news?
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. I mean, he's got a family. His kids, that's how they get to remember Dad. I mean, that's terrible. I think you're putting a little too much onus on the hotel room. It's not that. Sometimes a nice quiet hotel room can be quite lovely. I mean, it doesn't have to be that. And any space you're in is what. I mean, if he needed to be around somebody, while the adrenaline rush was wearing off, be around somebody.
I don't think that's what did it. Was the adrenaline rush for him? Of course, he suffered from mental illness.
I think there's obviously a lot of different people that are in the business for different reasons, and different things go on in your life. But I think maybe there's certain types of people that strive and are driven and do this, and they get that rush from the show, and it's tough when you come off the stage and maybe you're just not fulfilled. Depression. I don't know if it was depression. I don't want to make suppositions as to what it was, but I've heard and dealt with stories of people hiding things very well, and
Well, look at how many
acting
comedians
there.
have committed suicide.
Well,
These are the funniest
there's some
people
of the
that-
funniest people and some of the most disturbed people
They're
as
so
well.
sad and,
It-
and deeply hurt inside, and they don't talk to anybody. And it's that same kind of thing.
Yeah, I try to analyze why are you doing this part of your career? Why do you do this? Why do you seek affirmation from other people and whatever type of entertainment industry it is? And yes, can you satisfy that when you leave the stage, whatever that may be? Me personally, I don't like I like what I do, but I don't put everything. I don't put all my chips on that square. I've got a great
Do you hear
family
that?
life at home.
To hear that, he's not even all in. Still,
I'm not.
been in the band for 20 years. He's still.
He's holding out for
He's got one. He's got one foot out the door.
He's holding out for Scorpions to call at any
I'm-
moment, and then he's out.
Anything better.
I'm
Turn out.
You know me. I'm such a recluse, and I'm such a like.
That's very true. Tough to get on the phone too.
It's one of the strangest businesses to be in for myself, and
How do you deal with that?
I try not to deal with it sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm very happy not being recognized. I'm completely content. I prefer that. And nothing against anybody else that enjoys the band. I mean, that's fantastic and everything. But for me, the fame thing is such a.
I wish Ryan got
It's a
recognized
strange-
more.
Well, yeah.
No, it's a strange.
Just
it's
in a
strange thing for
torturous
me.
sort of way.
It's a strange thing for me. So
Do
It
you
is.
guys ever have a moment where you think back to those early days we were talking about, those days in Hannah, those days playing Penticton, playing Abbotsford, and look across the stage and go, geez, that's the same guy. That's the same guy I was playing with when we were struggling out and eating at Boston Pizza.
Yep. Yeah, just looking over.
Yep.
Just looking over at Ryan, and I'm thinking to myself, God, is he still here?
exactly.
Still here, huh?
Yeah, that
Still
guy-
here.
He forgot about the $100 I left him.
Yeah.
But Chad, it must be something. It must be something. Like there's a lot of bands don't retain members like that either. Like it
true.
must be something to look over and see your old buddy.
It's good. It's great. I mean, I got a brother to contend with on the other side.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I don't know. Some bands make it, some bands don't, and you just kind of like you find that it's a push pull. You find that happy medium with everybody.
Yeah.
What everybody wants. We find everybody wants different things when you're on the road. When we're starting on the road, I mean, we had to split the bus up at the very beginning because
Yeah, that was
Nobody-
I don't remember at any point in time anyone ever complaining. And there was like, God, I think there was like 16 of us on that very first bus. You got the crew, the band, and everything, and we were one big happy family.
Yeah.
And like, if any of the guys wanted to sleep, you just stay out of the back, you know, and if you wanted to have drinks and you know, if you're meeting people on the road and you want to party and you're up front, then you just keep the music down a little bit and you just be respectful of everything. But the shenanigans, the silly crap, I mean, like just the dumb stuff that we have done. I mean, I remember sitting there at one point in time looking over at our tour manager. I had a cold beer in my hand. We finished a show. We're driving down the road and I looked over at him. I'm like, I could do this for the rest of my life. And so far I have. So
But what about next? What about the next generation to do this? And I asked Lars Ulrich of Metallica of this when he was in recently, and I said, you guys like Metallica, started out playing small clubs and building your way up, and you grinded out in a rock career. Do you think that a band now, in 2017, could grind it out, could get in a van playing rock music, and have the success that you guys had?
You know what? I
wouldn't want to.
I don't know.
I can tell you that.
Why? What do you mean?
I sure as hell wouldn't want to. I mean, I wouldn't even know. Like for us, it was always like you knew what you had to do to get your music heard. And you knew that if you had, you know, some good heavy rock tunes, that you had to get played on rock radio. And if you had some lighter, more melodic songs, you had to get played on, I mean, in America, either hot AC or pop radio. And that was the best way to reach fans. I mean, now it's Spotify this, and it's, you know, Apple Music, and it's just everything. But there's just so much. I think that everyone's inundated with so much new music. It's hard to, and how do you set yourself apart from all those other bands? Like, I would not want to be trying to come out now and try and have a career in this business. I would just find it incredibly daunting.
I don't think
Personally.
you could. Yeah. But to what you're saying, I don't think you can discount the fact of of timing being a huge element, and that sometimes, most times, is completely out of your control. We were there for the opportunity, I think, and I firmly believe that. I mean, if you're
We
saying
started off when rock music wasn't cool.
that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying, with a rock
then it
band,
became cool.
couldn't they go out and do it right now and be successful? That's a crystal ball call for me, because we were doing it because that's what we grew up on. That's what we liked. That's what we gravitated to. We enjoyed playing it. Let's do it. It came from an honest place. It really did. And I remember when we were trying to get signed, everybody was like, no, it's all female solo artists. At the time, it was Paula Cole.
Damn you, Brittany!
Paula Cole and Brittany and Sarah McLachlan, and doing fantastic. And it's
really great artists.
But
yeah.
nobody could have give a crap about us. They just, like our style of music. Nobody wanted to manage us.
Nope.
Just because in the business, managers and record companies, they weren't willing to take a risk on it because the timing wasn't right. And we were just like, well, this is what we do. And we just stayed the course. And then all of a sudden it became a rock decade.
This
almost.
is the ice cream we're selling.
Yeah,
if you don't like the ice cream we're selling, you can go to Baskin Robbins.
We
and you can go
have
taste
chocolate.
their ice
That's
cream.
all we have is chocolate.
This is what we got.
So I think about that a lot, about like timing for a lot of bands and artists. It's just like, to some degree, it's got to be a bit serendipitous, but you can't plan that stuff. So we were just there to be open to opportunity. You have to be open to, you'll get opportunities, but you got to be open to grabbing those things. And we were all in the point in our careers where we were grabbing onto it hard and just seeing where the hell it was going to go.
Guys, it's been a pleasure having you in.
Buddy,
Thanks, man.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you so much for having us.
Thanks so much for talking. Thank you, Chad.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Ryan.